The Lord of the Rings, Adventure to Mount Doom.
The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar.
And Killer Trails.
This is Dana.
Right, lads, it's Christmas. Let's grip it and rip it.
Whoa! Yes.
Oh, yes. Crazy boy. He's off on one.
Oh, my word. Look at that. Look at
Oh, lads, he's having a mid-strength lager. God.
Oh, I didn't know we were drinking tonight. I've got hot chocolate. I do have a cider in the fridge. It's a fruity cider.
Go and get it. Go on. We'll wait for you. Go on, it's Christmas. It's going to be a feast for the mouth, that is. There he is. Off he runs. What drink do you only drink at Christmas? Because I was thinking about this the other day and I was like, my father-in-law makes the best Irish coffee. Right?
What, first thing in the morning?
No, like as a little like denouement to the day, a little aperitif to the day. But he makes like an incredible Irish coffee. And you know, the 364 days of the year, an Irish coffee will never pass his lips. But on this one day, he makes an exception. And boy, oh boy, does he make them well.
Okay, if you're ending your Christmas day with that, Sam, do you know how I start a Christmas day? In the Derby household.
Did you go quite traditional, Bucks Fizz?
Yes. Oh my gosh. I can drink pints of that stuff. It's incredible.
Well, Chris,
Bucks
you would have loved the when we were away in Lanzarote the other week. The hotel that we're staying in, the first thing that you saw before any of the breakfast, any of the layout of any of the banquet that they had on offer, the breakfast buffet, the first thing that you saw was two massive jugs, one of Bucks Fizz and the other of the cocktail of the day.
Wow.
And I thought, how terrible must you find your family for the first thing to be like, oh, quickly, get one of these fleets in you.
This in. Yeah. So, Bucks Fizz to start the day, Irish coffee to end the day. Okay, I'm coming to Pete and Dan now for 11s and just in the afternoon to keep people tided over. For drink, we're talking about here. Now I know Pete's mum polishes off a bottle of Baileys a year.
Yeah.
No. Let's be clear. She polishes off a bottle of Baileys one day every year. So and I've got to say, I think for me it's Baileys. Like I Baileys is a nice little sipping drink of an afternoon.
But you don't touch it at any other point.
No, I don't.
During the year.
You say that, Pete, but when I came to yours last year after Christmas, I brought you a bottle of Baileys down and we watched RRR and you pretty much drank most of that. We shared it between the three of us, but you were the one with the lion's share. That film.
Straight from the bottle.
Swigging it. It's a Christmas. You know what? It's a festive period drink. That's what it is, really.
I'm gonna have to go with like a really luxurious hot chocolate with whipped cream on top and all that jazz, and late at night, just as you're getting cozy, you're probably quite full up from your dinner, and you just want something a little bit soothing and relaxing to send you off to slumber.
You've just had your Baileys.
You just had your Baileys.
Yeah. Pop some more Baileys in there, and we're talking.
You could. Absolutely.
I do like a boozy hot chocolate, I must admit. Very nice indeed.
Right, just like every Christmas, you got to decide when are you opening presents? Pre-dinner, post-dinner?
Now.
Okay, well, let's do it now then.
Let's do this. So this is our Secret Santa. We've been doing this for, God knows how many years now. £20 limit. We each give each other a little bit of a steer in terms of what we'd like from St. Nick.
Usually with a theme around the kind of things we talk about in the podcast. Kind of usually it's some kind of game or film or TV. You know, we like to keep it on message. You know, for the Staying In podcast. So,
with that in mind, who would like to go first?
I'll go first.
That was like the most lackluster rock, paper, scissors I've ever experienced. Okay. So, Dan, what did you ask for this Christmas? And have you been a good boy?
I believe I have. I've tried real hard. And
you got so
from
far.
my Secret Santa this year, quite simple. I just asked for a relaxing game. We occasionally will play games together. And I know you guys like to play more relaxing games. And a lot of time when we're playing games, I like to kind of feel like I've achieved something or kind of a progression or something like that. So certain games like Civilization or Power Wash Simulator, I don't feel like I really
You don't feel like there's progression. What? You don't feel like you've achieved something in
to be
Power
clear,
Wash Simulator?
there's no progression taking a civilization from
Pete.
3000
You don't want to dig
Common
into
Era
this.
all the way up to the future and to Alpha Centauri. No,
Pete, you don't want to dig into this. Wait, because the reason why I don't see any progression with Civilization is we have tried to play that game for about 5 years, and there are literally 10, 20 different versions of the game that we have started with different configurations of us, and never has it gone past the first session. So I've still been fighting barbarians 10 years down the line. So no, there is no progression with that. And Power Simulator, I'm just washing a wall. I mean,
yeah, but there's still progression. It's undeniable.
Yeah, but I don't feel like I've achieved anything. Is the point I was making? So, in an attempt to perhaps engage more with relaxing games, I asked my Secret Santa for a relaxing game. Nice and simple.
Okay, cool.
Well, we'll see. So I got an Amazon package addressed to me. Didn't know if it was me, so I let my wife open it. It's gift wrapped, so I'm hoping this is my Secret Santa. Yep, I've got a message saying, ho, 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 Merry Christmas from Secret Santa. Let's see
tracks.
What's in here. Okay, it's a video game.
Oh.
Okay, it's a video game for the Nintendo Switch, which I currently don't have, but I will in about, well, by the time this comes out, in about a week's time. I've got a game called Ooblets.
Ooblets.
Oh.
So, by the looks of it, it's kind of like a... Oh, hang on. I thought it looked like a bit like a Stardew Valley kind of farming thing, but it's not, because there are other pictures which are very much not Stardew Valley. I can dance, decorate, farm, explore, collect, dress up, befriend, and craft. This sounds like a very varied game that I can enjoy with my 6-year-old son. He might enjoy this. It looks very happy. Doesn't seem too taxing. Is anybody familiar here with Ooblets? I think I know who got it based on. I think I know who got it, so I'll hold on to that for now. Has anybody heard of this game before? Has anybody got any experience with this game before?
I've heard of it. I've not had any experience of it, but I have heard of it, and it looks delightful, I should say.
Yeah, the art style is like reminiscent of like Go Sushi type kind of artwork.
So the description on Steam reads, Ooblets is a relaxing and offbeat farming, town life and creature collection game. Manage your farm, grow and train your ooblets, explore strange lands, and have dance-offs.
Yeah, this is the game with the dance-offs, isn't it? So you can collect ooblets and effectively make them dance off against each other. I think ooblets sits in that Katamari Damacy space where it's kind of like you're doing something, but it's really not anything, and it is just a distraction, and it's just going through a certain process to allow your brain to switch off ever so slightly.
The tagline for this game is, your life has been a giant toot. I feel that's quite aggressive.
Well, there we go.
That's great. Lovely.
Well, thank you very much, Santa. Thank you very much for my ooblets.
He's always there.
He's keeping an eye on you as you sleep. Is that the line from the
Keeping
song?
an eye on you while you sleep.
Yeah.
It doesn't quite scan, but yeah, it's.
You better watch out. I'm telling you why. I'm keeping an eye on you while you sleep.
That sounds much more sinister when it doesn't rhyme.
I'm going to go off brand because it's Christmas. We're staying in the podcast. We like to talk about things you can do indoors. Yes, we've talked about going to the cinema, but that's a kind of an indoor thing.
Yeah. It's an indoor pursuit, isn't it?
It's an indoor pursuit.
Indoors.
Yes, you're absolutely right, Sam. So I want to talk about something I did outdoors, which I got as part of my birthday, which was killer trails. Now, Dan, do you remember a few years ago we were in London and we did like a little scavenger hunt around London with some pubs?
I remember it very well.
Yeah, in the middle of it.
Yeah, it was a company called Hidden City.
Yes.
I think.
Okay.
So this reminded me a lot of that. So I did this around Chester. So this is a company called Killer Trails. So it's killertrails.co.uk, and it's developed by Tom Kelly. And the best way I can describe it is that it's a treasure hunt at your own pace. It's almost like a video game. You can do as much of it as you want or as little as you want, because you decide as and when you do it. And it has this kind of whodunit twist attached to it. And they say it works best with groups of people between 2 to 6, and it takes roughly
age or
2 to 3 hours in terms of numbers of people.
Numbers of people, yeah.
Because that would be chaos. So the premise is this: you pay like $12.99, and you get like a PDF which you print out, and what it has in it, broadly speaking, is a set of instructions that consist of clues that you have to solve, which guide you around a UK city to solve a fictional crime. And they've got about 19 trails in total, which each refer to a city in the UK. They've got one in Birmingham near you, Dan, which is called Peaky Finder.
Of course.
And Sam, in Manchester near you, there's one called The Serial Killer. That's serial with the letter C.
Yeah, because the Kellogg's factories.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So I did the one in Chester, which was called the Poltergeist Heist. So the actual premise of each scavenger hut is tailored to the city, not just in terms of the places you go around, but also the kind of history of that place, really. And yeah, I did this on a cold day in Chester, and you basically have this wonderfully, beautifully presented PDF where you have a list of suspects and the whole, and a list of some murder weapons. And what you're doing is you're solving clues which essentially eliminate a suspect or a weapon from your inquiries, like Cluedo almost, as you're kind of moving around. And it's very, very mythogeographic. So what I mean by that is, like, characters' names you don't realise feel quite... You think, oh, where do they get these names from? But then you start to walk around the city and you'll get to a house and it says, oh, yes, so-and-so lives here. And you look up and the name of this building, the name was written like centuries ago, happens to be one of your suspects' names in the book.
Interesting.
And I've been going to Chester for years, but I saw parts of Chester that I'd never seen before. And likewise, I saw bits of Chester that I'd been walking past for years without realising, quite blithely. And here's a great thing as well, is that every 3 or 4 clues, you'll get a little symbol of a foaming pint of beer. And that tells you that you're near a pub that you may want to just stop in and go for a pint. So
that's nice.
You could make a day of this as a pub crawl. And which would be really, really lovely. Because you get into this routine, you get a direction, then a clue, and then a historical fact, which is also quite lovely, and then a pit stop every so often. And what I really, really quite liked about it is that, as I was saying before, character names are kind of hidden in the city. There were some really weird coincidences. And this is not a spoiler, but in the Chester one, it said, okay, you need to look for houses 616 to this amount. And it just so happened there was a bar there called 616 that had nothing to do with this. But it felt like, oh my word, this felt like really opposite. And what was really lovely as well is the last 2 clues you do at home. So like we were getting quite cold and we'd eliminated everything, we got our suspects, we got our weapons, our weapon. But then there was this additional clue that it revealed almost like a crossword that you needed to solve all the previous clues to get. But it says, if you want to go to a pub or a cafe nearby, warm yourself up, you can go and finish the rest of it there if you want to.
That's clever. So
it's beautifully presented. You can tell that Kelly, who's the kind of creator of this company, you can tell he'd done his background's in product design, because it feels like an immaculate kind of item, really. But my partner and I were saying, look, we need to. We next time we do one of these, we're just going to go and spend a whole day doing it and just calling it at pubs during the day.
Come on.
Yeah, like Sam, we'll definitely do Serial Killer in Manchester. I think we'll have a lot of fun with this. Genuinely was a really, really wonderful thing to do for $12.99, and you can do it at your own pace. We could have literally just said, okay, we're going to do 4 clues because we come to Chester quite often, and we'll just save it there, and next time we're back here we'll carry on.
Yeah, I think I mean, as you say, it's very similar to the one we did down in London. I did a couple of those, and kind of the point I pick up on that you said, it's such a brilliant way of exploring a city, and you absolutely do see things that you would never usually see, because you go down roads and avenues and places that you would never usually go down. Like when I was in London, we would find these little gardens in the middle of kind of the built up areas, this tiny little garden which had like a a Shakespeare bust in the middle of it, and there was a clue attached to that. I think the ones I did were slightly different in the fact of it was all based around text messages. So you would get sent a clue via text message, and you would have to give an answer to that based on something you found. So it might be the date somebody died based on this statue that you find, and once you've given that, it then gives you the next clue, moves on. I mean, what I really like about the one you're talking about there, Chris, is it does factor in a lot of kind of breaking up the rhythm of it. Like the ones that I did, there was kind of like a halfway point where it kind of said, okay, if you want it, it's time for a break now. We've left you near this bar. Feel free to have a drink, and then you can pick it up again whenever you want to, which is great. But we kind of like, oh, you know, we're in the mood for it now. We're going to keep going. Whereas for yours, it sounds quite nice that there's a constant thing of you can stop pretty much whenever you want. It's not just like one defined time. And similarly, the one I did, we kind of ended at a pub, which ended up being packed full of people who had just done this tour. Because you can do it at your own pace, but obviously, like on an evening, on a Friday evening, Saturday evening, this is a lot of people are doing this. You don't see these people when you're doing the tour because everyone's doing it in their own way, but you're all getting to the same end point. And I can't remember if that was the one that you were there for, Chris, because there was a group of about 6 of us and we did it. I think with you.
Yeah, I think it didn't have like a Sherlock Holmes twist on it or something.
It could be, yeah. I know.
Correct.
I think the company now, it's less about just general kind of walking tour type things. It's much more narrative focused now. The ones that they do, I think it's in the Hidden City or something like that. So there's a Moriarty one, there's like an Alice in Wonderland one, and like an MI5 kind of spy one, which is, I think, where the natural progression is, and that's obviously what you've got yours, that kind of whole murder mystery. You have that natural progression of we need to feed a narrative in there. It's great to be able to have this tour, this walking, this experience, this learning of new things, because you find artifacts, you find kind of signs and stuff, and you see things that you've never seen, you learn things that you've never learned. And so then when you bolt on this murder mystery, that gives you a further impetus to think outside the box around what it is. You're not just kind of going clue to clue to clue.
Bath is the closest one to you, Pete. It's called the Bath Encounters.
I mean, that sounds perfect. I did one of these in Bristol, not this same company, but and I agree with all of you. Like, you see stuff and you learn something about your city that you wouldn't normally. Whereas I feel like when you're a tourist in somebody else's city, sometimes you see it from a different perspective. Like, you're more likely to find, you know, one of those nice little gardens if you're like making an active decision to go and look at and find these sorts of things. So I actually quite like these, and they are fun little excuses to go and explore your own city, because Britain's got an amazing, and you know, all across the world, of course, but like Britain's got an amazing history in all of its cities. So much, I mean, we've been invaded so many bloody times that, like, of course it's going to be tons of fascinating history, and it's just wonderful to have an excuse to go and look at those things without feeling like a bit of a Burke, because like it's all an excuse, right? Like, the puzzle is all just essentially a MacGuffin to go and look at, to go and find out, oh, that's what Bristol's coat of arms is and what it means.
To wander off the beaten path.
It's fascinating. Yeah.
Chris.
Okay. Wow. Well, this is going to be very interesting. I think mine's going to be handled via SMS. Oh, and something has just come through via SMS.
What a guy he is.
I know. Okay. Okay, so recording at 8:31 p.m. I've had a few messages from Santa over the last few days. Actually, I'll just read them to you. I think they're quite lovely.
Yeah, fill us in on Santa and his...
Santa and his burner phone.
So on Saturday, I got a message from Santa saying, "Good evening, Mr. Darby. This is Santa. I just wanted to let you know that due to the nature of your request, you'll be receiving an email from my bad self on the day of recording. So don't panic. This year I'm going all digital, baby. Much love, SC." I responded back saying, "Oh, I thought that might be the case. So absolutely fine. Thank you for letting me know. If you could also get round to sending me that hoverboard I asked for in 1990, that would be great."
Perfect.
Santa, I'll see what I can do, young man. Cowabunga, SC. Really leaning into
the whole,
being
like,
down with the
people
kids.
call me SC, and they don't.
Yeah. And then today, while I was at work, just after lunch, "Good afternoon, my dear Chris. Due to server issues in the Pole," I presume that must be Poland, "I'll be resorting to SMS to make delivery arrangements for your Secret Santa. Make sure your phone is on loud. Keep it chill. SC. And then, just now, Merry Christmas, my dear boy. A polls for the ongoing server issues. My top men are on it. But until then, we will stick with good old text messaging, just like the good old days. No SC this time.
No SC. Well, I think it's SC must have realised that it wasn't really sticking.
Okay, so what I asked for from Father Christmas was a relaxing story-led game. I've really enjoyed, for example, games such as Neocab, for example, and Coffee Talk, which I've got in the past. Love those games. Almost like slightly kind of cookie cutter-ish, where there's very little interaction from the player. You're kind of clicking through the story, but absolutely joyful and relaxing.
Virtual novels, I think.
Yes, virtual novels. Thank you, Sam. That's exactly what it is.
No, let's all calm down. Visual
novels. Sorry.
Visual novels, yes.
Sorry.
Visual novels,
virtual
yes.
novel.
Let the
Yes.
weeb in the room tell you what it actually is.
So Santa has now just asked me to say, look, here's what I'm going to ask you to do for your secret gift from me. I'm going to send you 4 titles. Each title alludes to 2 games on the Nintendo eShop that you'll have, capital letters, to purchase using funds sent to you. It's awfully exciting, isn't it? Yes, it is, Santa.
Ooh, it is.
Well, I'm really intrigued by this. Hold on to your hats. That's a quote from the next message. And if SC is listening, I have 10% of my battery left.
Well, I better hurry up, mightn't they?
Yeah, he better, hadn't he?
Oh, we better hurry up.
Some good radio.
Okay, so I've had from Santa, I get a choice of hot and mysterious, drinking stories, clubs of water, or simple grooves.
Ooh.
Well, they sound right up my street. Well, it's going to have to be hot and mysterious.
Obviously.
I see, says Santa.
I don't know how he heard that.
This is going well.
God, he's here.
When he's with you when you're sleeping.
Yeah.
He's watching you as you sleep.
He stands over you.
No way. Santa has bought me, and very kindly told me how much each one costs. Thank you, Santa.
Oh, thanks, Santa.
No gift receipt in this text message.
Yeah.
I've got Coffee Talk 2. I didn't know that existed. That's perfect. Thank you, Santa. And Paradise Killer, which is a game I really did want to play. That's amazing. Ooh. And as Santa actually says, a great choice. These are the games you've selected. Have a very Merry Christmas and a bodacious New Year. SC out.
He's really leaning into that surfer, isn't he? That's that surfer style.
Yeah.
Wow. That's wonderful. It's almost like the clock stopped in Lapland circa 1982.
Yeah.
Me and Kris took a journey into Middle-earth.
We did.
Oh, yeah?
We did. Again.
Lovely this time of year.
We do do it quite a lot. We do it quite a lot.
Yes. We've journeyed into Middle-earth several times actually this year, Sam.
We have.
And it never gets old.
Yeah, we played that big box of stuff that you got from
Aircom.
And this time we played the Lord of the Rings Adventure to Mount Doom.
Oh my word. Now, I'm sorry, Sam, but this is the best looking board game I've played this year.
Mm-hmm.
Hands down.
Really?
I said to you, Sam, look, I'd happily put that board on my wall. And I meant it.
Yeah. It is absolutely immaculate. It's quite difficult to... I find it quite difficult to sort of explain how good the art is, and it's also quite difficult to explain it in relation to Lord of the Rings, because we all have... I think we are all, either by osmosis or by direct sort of ingestation, influenced by Peter Jackson's particular vision for what the Lord of the Rings is and was. And the artwork for this manages to straddle such a fine line between some of those images that we come to know and reference from Peter Jackson's work. So, for example, what Mount Doom looks like, what Sauron's tower looks like, what the ring wraiths look like. Even some of the characters, like the design of Gandalf and Arwen and Saruman, have slightly different slants to them, but they're also quite recognizable in a way. And part of that is down to Tolkien's writing for sure, but also part of that I think is a slight interpretation of Jackson's work also. But putting all that aside, it still is a stunning piece of work, like incredible. Like it's got this. I think the thing that it most reminds me of, Chris, is a bit like Brian Boru and how good that looks.
Oh yes, no, definitely. How would you describe that? Because it almost has like there's a watercolory charm to it, but it somebody's gone in with, and I'm not an artist in that sense really, but like a fine liner, so it stands out very clear. All the parts of it are very clearly delineated, but it still has that kind of wistful watercolory kind of charm to it, where the colours really pop.
Yeah, it's got that sort of Celtic feeling to it.
Yeah,
like it does almost look like a piece of Celtic folk art.
Yeah, almost like Red Cathedral to a degree.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, it's definitely got that Red Cathedral, the Brian Boru sort of Celtic feeling to it. Alexander Katz, by the way, is the artist for Lord of the Rings. Adventure to Mount Doom, and I think it's one of these games where you get it out on the table and I think you'll just have people gushing over how good it looks.
It looks good.
Yeah.
How's it play? What is it? How do I...
So, right, okay, it looks good. How does it play? It's like that Not 9 O'Clock News song. Nice video, shame about the song.
Shame about the game.
It's shame about the game. But I think the game is actually really, really good. I think that it's definitely going for a very, very young audience. And Dan, I think for you, when your son is a little bit older, I think you will get a real ton out of this game, because I think it's not only a brilliant way to introduce someone who's quite young, say about like 8, 9 or 10, to board games, but also it's a great way of introducing someone into like what the Lord of the Rings is. So how the game works is designed by Michael Ryanek, and quite wrongly we initially assumed this was by the same designer as Andor, didn't we, Chris?
Because it feels a bit like that.
It does. It feels a lot like Andor, which again is another cracking game when it comes to playing with kids and playing with younger family members. But how the game works is it works in a very literary fashion, and I think which helps it in terms of bringing younger people on board with it. And it also works, and it's also driven a lot by luck, which I think is the other thing that really helps young people be introduced to it, because there's not a lot of advanced strategy. There's not a lot of, higher level thinking that someone has to do to really feel like they're contributing or that they're really getting the most out of the game, because luck is a big driver of how it works. So what you have on the board is a depiction of Frodo and the Fellowship's journey from Rivendell through to Mount Doom. And unlike War of the Ring, it's not really trying to tell the story of the Fellowship, because essentially you can get the Fellowship all the way from Rivendell to Mount Doom. Instead, it's kind of almost a reimagining of that Lord of the Rings tale, basically.
Yeah. They can only go one way there. War of the Ring, you choose your route there and you break up the band. You can break up the Fellowship if you want to at any point along that journey. Mm-hmm. No, this is like a kind of a ghost train or a roller coaster. You're just following the track, but how far you get along that track depends on how well you play.
Yeah. So in quite a traditional board gaming style, it is a roll and move game, which almost also makes it feel quite nostalgic in a way. It definitely feels like a game. This is the kind of game, and I mean this in like the most respectful term I can say it. It feels like a game that your grandparents would have owned, and it will be the game that you can't wait to go to your grandparents to pull this off the shelf,
right,
and play it at a weekend or at Christmas or something like that. It feels almost like, you know, it has that nostalgic feeling to it. Even the artwork looks a little bit like that Lord of the Rings film from like the 70s, you know, the animated...
the Ralph Bakshi one, is it?
Yeah. The animated version of it. Like, it feels like, I hate to say relic because I feel like that's kind of a derogatory term, but it definitely feels like, it feels nostalgic. It feels like it's bathed in the showers of history or something like that. Anyway, and so how the game works is you have the map that the Fellowship are going to take from Riverdale to Mount Doom, and then you have little standee figures on the board, and each standee figure represents a member or members of the Fellowship. So Frodo and Sam together, Merry and Pippin together, and then there's a standee that represents Aragorn and Legolas and Gimli, etc., etc., etc. And you pick 4 dice, and you roll 2 black dice, and you roll 2 coloured dice. And the coloured dice represent one of the standees around the board. So orange is Frodo and Sam, green is Legolas, red is Gimli. And then the 2 black dice represent basically one of the cards that gets placed at the bottom of the board. So when you start the game, you separate out this deck of cards essentially into chapters or acts from the book. So there's one for Rivendell, there's one for Gondor, there's one for Mount Doom, there's one for, what's the name, the Seat of the King? Gondor?
Yeah, Minas Tirith.
And like one for Helm's Deep, that kind of thing. And on the start of each chapter, you deal out these cards. There's 7 cards in each chapter. You deal out these cards, these 6 slots. 1 and 6 stay face down, 2 to 5 stay face up. So when you roll in these dice, you make a choice of which character do you want to move and how far, and which of the 6 cards do you want to have access to, or do you want to have to encounter during this particular round. And then once you picked those 2 dice, you'll pick then another coloured dice to replace the one that you picked, and do the process again. So you end up with this lovely little tableau which sits on this lovely illustrated picture of a book of a black dice and a coloured dice, and on the other page another black dice, another coloured dice. So then each turn is you encounter the card, what that particular number is, and that could be you're facing off against an enemy, like you face up against the Uruk-hai, or Sauron might summon some more orcs into his army, or it might be that you can enlist the help of a friend like Elrond or Boromir. And then you move the figure that is represented by the colour that you chose. You move them a certain way along the path towards the next destination. So, you know, Rivendell to Lothlorien, then Lothlorien to Rohan. And what's critical about the fact that you're moving figures is it not only gives it this nostalgic feel, but it plays a big role in how those characters can act during specific events. Now, what you're trying to do is you're trying to get Frodo and Sam to the next location on the board, to the next big destination. If you can do that by rolling a specific number that they need to get into the destination, you'll get a certain bonus. If not, it doesn't really matter, you know, fair enough. But if you can get them to that destination with a specific number on the dice, brilliant, you're going to get some sort of bonus. The important thing is what's happening to the Fellowship around Frodo and Sam. Because whenever you encounter a battle, you will have to fight off the orcs, the Uruk-hai, the ring wraiths, but you can only use the figures who are ahead of Frodo and Sam during that current stage to help in battle. So there's always this lovely little push and pull where you're trying to get Frodo and Sam to the destination as quickly as possible, because then they're safe, then they can't be harmed. But you're also trying to juggle it so the Fellowship always stays ahead of Frodo and Sam as well. Because if they're ahead of them, then they can help defend and protect the Fellowship. But if you send the Fellowship or the ring bearers too far ahead, then there's no one there to help defend them. And then there's a last twist, which is when they get to Mount Doom. And unfortunately, the few times that me and Chris have played it, we've never got them to Mount Doom. So I don't know what the final twist is, and I don't want to. It says don't read this until you get to Mount Doom, and I'm sticking to it. But so the game is really simple. It's just rolling dice, attributing that result to characters, and kind of hoping that you've done the right thing and you can survive. There's very minimal strategy. There's very minimal sort of real reasoning to be had. You really just pick the colours of the dice of the figures with a mind that, yeah, we really need to get them along, or we really need to like get them to catch up with Frodo and Merry, and that's really it. So it just has this wonderfully nostalgic feeling to it. It just does feel like it's been around for years and years and years and years.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting you say about the strategy, but I think there is a little bit. I think this game has been very well tested because it's a cooperative game, so obviously there needs to be conversation. An assumption would be that if the game is overly lacking in strategy, there doesn't need to be much conversing. You're just playing. You could play the game in silence because you're just kind of going through the motions because you're dictated by the dice. Whereas actually we were talking quite a lot, Sam, because obviously a conversation needs to be had as to which dice you select. Not just because, okay, I don't want to trigger this baddie at the bottom of the table here, but actually also that's a high number, but I don't want to move these people too far ahead because I don't want them, because if they go past, say for example, they go past Lorien and they're ahead of Frodo, they actually aren't going to be good for them because they need to be between Frodo and their next destination. So there is conversation happening, but it's not to the extent where it threatens to actually derail the game and bring it to a grinding halt.
No, not at all. And it feels really literary. It feels like chapters in the book. It feels like there is an adventure here that you're going on, and there is a story that you're telling, and the rhythm of it, the pacing of it is really like that first journey from Riverdale to Lothlorien. It was like really gentle and really nice, and you sort of felt a bit of a threat there, but it wasn't really sort of present. There's a few like Uruk-hai on the road, but Saruman was there in his tower, but it still felt like far enough away. And then the minute we got past Helm's Deep, it felt we were like really, really in it. Then we were really having to think about who we were sending forward and who we were trying to keep back to protect. It's just one of those relaxing and enjoyable cooperative experience where I don't think either of us really felt like we were burning our brains to kind of try and keep up with the game, but yet it never really felt like the game was ever not enjoyable at any point.
I think it comes across from what you're saying. I think there are many ways that a game could get you to follow a set route, and obviously you're basing it on the narrative of Lord of the Rings. There is a set route for them to follow. There's lots of different ways a game can do that, but I think it's quite difficult for it to naturally make it feel as if you're following by, as you just mentioned there, by chapters. And the way you're explaining it, it does come across that feeling. And I can imagine playing it and having that feeling of, okay, we're in Lothlorien. Let's just take a breath, as they do in the story. Let's take a breath, and now we're going to have to make a move because we've got to get to that place next, and there is danger ahead of us. And I can absolutely kind of, from what you're explaining, I'm looking at the map here and kind of hearing how you've played it. It's really interesting. I'd probably say more complex than you'd probably think it would be to create that sense of progression, that structured progression, in the same way that the book progresses from A to B through a story, constantly ratcheting up, adding elements to it, and building and building and building. So when you get to those later stages, suddenly you've also got the element of we've come so far, and the fact is that you've not got to the end. So there is not a case of, oh, if we just keep playing, we'll get to the end and we'll complete the story. Kind of, no, you've come so far, and there's a lot of things that could kind of halt your progress here. You're not just going to be able to just keep going. And I think that's a really interesting kind of style of game to play, especially kind of the idea being that it's not a strategy thing. It is just rolling and moving. And obviously it's a beauty, as you say, the artwork is beautiful. But my first thought when I looked at it was, that doesn't look particularly interesting in sense of you're moving from spot to spot to spot to spot to spot. It's very kind of basic in that sense. But when you're factoring in all these narrative elements, absolutely, you start throwing in strategy and everything else, and you will lose that. You'll lose that core element of we are the Fellowship going along this journey.
Yes.
Yeah, because there are a couple of clocks in this game, so you can't dilly-dally. So you may be thinking, listener, okay, well, I just pick the low dice and we just slowly move our way forwards and be very pensive. But there are several clocks. One of those clocks, which is one of the ways in which Sam and I lost the first time we played, was the ring wraiths. So you have these little figures of the ring wraiths in the top right-hand corner. Oh, sorry, the top left-hand corner of Orthanc. And in instances, you may end up activating them, and it might just say, okay, remove a ring wraith off the board. So when they're all gone, that's it. So it's very helpful in terms of not prevaricating too much, which means that it removes that sense of analysis paralysis. You cannot really falter. You cannot dilly-dally, really. And that means as a consequence that one of the joys about this game for me is the fact that those two cards that are face down in the 1 slot and the 6 slot, sometimes they weren't flipped. And looking forward to the next deck coming out. Oh, we've made it to the next level. A new deck's coming out. It's beautifully painted, this deck, beautifully designed. What are we going to get? Who are we going to get? And it feels like a Disney film. You know, the people you meet along the way. Oh, I'm going to give you this as a little boon that you can use in the future. Oh, there's Galadriel. Oh, thanks, Galadriel. Oh, brilliant. We'll make good use of that thing you're giving us here. Oh, we because we powered through this level, we didn't actually meet Galadriel because we rushed ahead. So we could have happily just played several games of this back to back, I think, and had a rich experience each time.
Yeah. I think the only thing that's I'm sort of trepidatious about it is when we finally play it a few more times again and make it to Mount Doom. I don't know how satisfying it's going to be to play it subsequent times, because there are only 7 cards to each deck, and you use 6 every turn. 2 of them are face down, so after 3 or 4 more plays, I think we will have a pretty good idea about what's going to be coming up through each chapter. We're going to sort of know what to expect, and we can plan a little bit ahead, which is why I think this definitely does skew towards younger players and to having a family around the table playing it, rather than to men in their 40s listening to trip-hop versions of the Lord of the Rings soundtrack. Like, no matter how lovely that was, like, I imagine sharing this with a young family would be really, really exciting. In the same way that rolling a dice and activating the mechanism for Mousetrap is exciting for a young child, I can imagine for another rolling a dice and ensuring that the ring bearer has made it safely to Helm's Deep, or that you've fought off an attack by Yorakai, will be just as equally as exciting.
Sam.
Right. What did I ask for? I asked for the best, shortest game.
That's a good request.
It's a great request, isn't it? Because 2 of those things are very, very subjective.
Yeah.
i.e. what you think is the best and what you think is short.
I mean, and what is a game after all?
Absolutely.
Well.
So imagine my surprise, because I was expecting a Steam code or a PSN code to some darling indie title that, you know, packs a hard punch, 20 minutes long, woof, in, out, job done.
Woof.
And you got Twilight Imperium 4th edition.
Oh, good Lord.
Yeah, no, but that might be the best, shortest game. It's so good that the shortest a game can be to reach that height is 12 hours. So
Right, I
it
see.
really was a good, you know.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So instead of that, I received this huge box.
Okay.
That's big.
I mean, it could still be a Steam code.
I mean, it could.
I mean, I'd like to think we're more environmentally friendly than that, but...
What, a Steam code engraved into a tablet of some sort?
Yeah, or a brick.
So
Or
the
just a
first
piece of
time
paper.
ever, I think, I've had to get my old penknife out
Ooh, fancy.
to get into this. Oof.
So it's definitely not some kind of light card game.
That's what I mean. Like, I have card games that
Is it
last 10
heavy?
minutes. It is quite weighty, yeah.
Interesting.
So, I would really like to know the thinking behind this.
Or the lack thereof.
The annoying thing is about this is the other reason why I was hoping I was just going to get a code for something is that we're currently 3 months into a local bin strike. So my recycling and waste bins haven't been picked up since October, and they won't until the new year. So
Oh, Merry Christmas.
Yeah. Wow.
all right, okay. So it's a board game
Okay.
made by the company Jumbo.
Okay.
It lasts for 30 minutes.
Okay.
This is a game by legendary game designers Prospero Hall,
Okay. Yes, he did Jaws,
Horrified,
Villainous.
Rocketeer, all good stuff.
Yeah, really like them.
All good games.
And this is How to Rob a Bank.
Right. What's the blurb? What's How to Rob a Bank about?
I think that was the blurb, Pete.
Oh, God. Oh, my God. Join forces. This is a game for everyone, for ages 10 to 99. At first, I thought that was a player count. I thought, oh, my God, Jesus Christ.
Jeez.
I'm not sure how age appropriate it is, considering the blurb is join forces to neutralise the bank guards
Yeah, some 99-year-old's not happy with that.
and steal the loot. One player plays the bank. The other players are bank robbers out to hit the bank. The map of the bank is never the same in the strategic bank robbery game. Oh, yeah, there's stuff in here that looks a little bit like it does look a little bit like Burger Brothers, not gonna lie.
Okay.
The cunning bank robbers have to join forces to plan the robbery and get away with the loot, but the bank guards have a few tricks up their sleeve to thwart their attempts. They do everything possible to prevent the bank from being robbed. Can the bank stop the robbers in their tracks before they head off with the contents of the vault?
That sounds good.
I think I had heard of this game before, but definitely a Prospero Hall joint. I am interested. I think, but what interests me more is I'd love to know more about how this fits in with the criteria for that one specific person's subjective opinion, which is the whole reason why I picked the best shortest game.
Well, how many games have Prospero Hall made which will only last 30 minutes?
Quite a lot.
That's a good question.
Because obviously they're a very good developer. But if they've not made many short games, then this could well be the best short game. It's the short game made by the best company. I don't know. Just throwing it out there.
Maybe. But they definitely made games that are 30 minutes. But thank you, as ever, Santa.
Let's see.
You know, as we're approaching Christmas, I don't know about you guys. I don't like, if I'm going to start something or watch something on TV or something, I don't like to watch anything too heavy around
Same.
Christmas time. I like to keep it light. And I found something. I say I found something. It was, I think, very well advertised. It's not like I've found a little nugget in the base of the Netflix library. I've been watching the compilation of kind of short films of Roald Dahl on Netflix.
Oh, these are the Wes Anderson ones.
Yeah, written and directed by Wes Anderson. In 2021, Netflix basically bought the Roald Dahl story company for like nearly 700 million. And so they have all the rights to kind of adapt any of the Roald Dahl stuff. They're in the middle of kind of creating an animated version of The Twits, which was one of my kind of favourite Roald Dahl books when I was growing up. From the only kind of promotional shot I've seen, doesn't look like The Twits I remember. So I'll hold my view on that one until it comes out. But one of the first things that's come out is this series of adaptations of short stories of Roald Dahl. So this isn't kind of any of these big stuff. Obviously, your likes of your Fantastic Mr. Fox, Matilda, George's Marvelous Medicine, all that. It's not those. This is 4 short films. So one kind of 40 minute short film, and then 3 kind of 15 to 20 minutes ones. So we've got the wonderful story of Henry Sugar, which is taken from a compilation of short stories called The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar and Six More. The only other one in that compilation that was kind of covered here is called The Swan. And then there's two other stories called Poison and The Rat Catcher.
I'm not familiar with any of these, Dan, actually.
I was not familiar kind of at all, really. It's like classic Wes Anderson cast of some of his favourites. So there's no Adrian Brody, who's in a lot of them, but it's a cast of basically 5-6 people across all of them. And then other than Ralph Fiennes, they all appear in 2 of the 4 films. So the actors are Benedict Cumberbatch, Ralph Fiennes, who appears in all of them, either as a character or as Roald Dahl, Dev Patel, Richard Ayoade, Sir Ben Kingsley, and Rupert Friend. So, as I say, of the 4 of them, they all appear in kind of in various groups. And I kind of put it on because I kind of missed the boat with Wes Anderson. I'd seen The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou because people have been raving about it, and I eventually watched it, and well, I enjoyed it, but it wasn't quite as brilliant as I was expecting it to be. I think it's one of the things where it got really built up. And then just a couple of years ago, maybe like last year, the year before, I watched the Grand Budapest Hotel, which is probably the most critically well received of all of them.
I fell asleep to that.
Well, that's a glowing recommendation from Sam Turner here.
Well, hang on, it's not necessarily a bad thing. You may have had a long day, Dan. We don't know what was happening at that point in your life.
I was on my honeymoon, and I just...
Hang on. Sorry, I wasn't aware of this. You were on your... So was this on a plane, I presume?
No. What do we watch on the plane going out? I watched a couple of things. That was New York. What did I watch on the plane going out? Can't remember. I watched Venom next to a small child, and
wow.
And I was watching it, and it was just like, this is meant to be plane safe, and on a plane, everything should be viewable by anyone because there's no control over, stopping what people watch. But it was a lot more violent and aggressive, and there was just like 8-year-olds sitting next to me, like wide eyes, no parents near them, just like.
Okay, wow. That's extraordinary.
Yeah, but no, we were in the hotel. We had a long day, and someone had left themselves logged in on Netflix. So we sat back and watched. I think we ordered some room service. You're on your honeymoon, and we watched Grand Budapest Hotel, and I fell asleep.
Nice. Wow. Okay. Wow. Thanks for that. So Dan, Wes Anderson. So you watched the Grand Budapest Hotel. Have you watched the Darjeeling Limited?
I've not watched all of the Darjeeling. I recently started watching it. And then something came up. I was like, you know what? I don't have the focus to be able to watch this properly now. I will come back to it. But I was really taken by kind of the art style, and obviously I knew kind of there's a very distinct visual style for Wes Anderson. You know when you're watching a Wes Anderson film.
Yes, definitely.
Very, very clearly, and you know when you see a trailer for a Wes Anderson film, there are parodies online of. Like, people have parodied a trailer for a different film in the Wes Anderson style because it's so kind of specific. Iconic. Yeah. So I'd watch that, and I fell in love with that. I fell in love with the rhythm of the speech, the rhythm of the language, all of it, the pace of the story, the twisting narrative, all that stuff. Really loved it. And so I've watched some more of it. And so when this came up, I was like, yeah, this looks great. Some great actors who I like. Roald Dahl felt like a good fit for that kind of adaptation. And I won't go into kind of all of them. If I touch on kind of the main one, which is kind of the headline one, which is The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar, which is a short story about a man who learns how to see without his eyes. So it's a guy who trains himself to be able to see with his eyes closed. And it's this fantastical fable about a man who learns and then teaches someone else and how he uses it for good or for bad and that kind of thing. And it's kind of bookended by Ralph Fiennes playing Roald Dahl in his shed where he would typically write. So he's sat there kind of as a doddery kind of old man in an armchair with a table sat on his lap with a heater, which every now and again comes on, and he's telling the story to the audience. It's all about breaking that fourth wall. There's kind of no realism, no naturalistic element to it. Very, very specific kind of tone that you would expect from Wes Anderson. But the thing I was really taken with it was, especially in The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar, there is this element of theatrical space. and there is this constant thing of a scene moving and the camera moving across scenes and across sets, or someone walking behind a set. And at times, like, Benedict Cumberbatch walks on screen as like a stagehand and then looks at the screen and quickly scampers off. And there's a lot of kind of maybe a set moving and lifting up, and there is a set scene really revealed behind it. And it's so many little theatrical tricks, and it's very Brechtian in the sense of it doesn't want you to engage with it and become invested in it. It wants you to keep you at a distance, to admire it. And kind of that whole like Steven Berkoff style of theatre of very defined action, whether it's movement, whether it's speech, everything is very precise, which again, all of this kind of flows perfectly with that Wes Anderson style, that if you know those films, you know exactly everything he does is very specific. The camera movement falls into a particular spot with a particular scene, and it was just a really, really lovely thing to watch. And I think around this time, I don't like to watch anything big and deep and long. I don't want to watch a 10 episode series that I have to binge and get involved in. This was 40 minutes and then 20 minutes and 20 minutes and 15 minutes. I could just sit back, relax, and be told a story. And it was really, really lovely.
Question I want to ask, Dan, is obviously the last thing Roald Dahl that Wes Anderson did was Fantastic Mr. Fox, which was a wonderful stop motion animation. When you were watching this, did it feel that this would have worked better as that kind of stop motion animation, Wes Anderson-esque kind of film? Or, you know, because you think about Roald Dahl, the first thing I think of are the illustrations of Quentin Blake, which are extremely iconic, very distinctive. You know, you mentioned the twits beforehand. The twits basically as a drawing just looks like a seismograph reading with a pair of angry eyes for each of them. So I'm just really curious to know, with that kind of polished, you know, very distinctively aesthetic style that tends to be quite polished and quite heightened. You know, I'm thinking particularly Grand Budapest Hotel. Does it work? Does Roald Dahl work well with Wes Anderson as a live action film as opposed to stop motion?
Mm-hmm. I think the big difference here is Fantastic Mr. Fox, and it's the same with the Twits, who obviously are being made as an animation. They are children's books. These shorts, not that they can't be enjoyed by adults, but these short stories are adult short stories. These are not children's short stories.
Right.
They deal with kind of the subject matters aren't deep and dark, but they're not. I don't think kids would get as much out of them. There is one of them is the rat catcher, and it's all about this creepy rat catcher and what does he do to kill the rat and how does he catch them, and he goes through all this different stuff, and it's basically a three-hander between Ralph Fiennes as the rat catcher, Richard Ayoade, and Rupert Friend. And it's just that kind of constant back and forth about these stories about how do you kill a rat? Oh, the rats are very clever. You've got to think like a rat and all this stuff. And he becomes quite rat. All this stuff kind of, there's nothing inappropriate for kids, but the kids aren't really going to get it. But that's okay because these stories weren't made for kids in that sense. But there's a lot of kind of, when he's telling the story, it's obviously the screenplays are all, it's not a direct kind of word for word adaptation. There's a screenplay by Wes Anderson. And I did actually, I listened to an audiobook of, I think it was The Rat Catcher. And I was just curious as to kind of, what's it like for like? And it absolutely, most of it is, but there's definitely kind of, he picks and chooses the words, how he wants it to flow and make some changes here and there. So it is very much a kind of a screenplay by Wes Anderson. But you have that whole thing of, as a character is talking, they will say the speech and then they will turn to the camera and then say something. So I said, like, he'll say something and he'll turn to the camera. He looked at me astonished and then turn back and say something else. That kind of, it's a really lovely when that happens. And like Richard Ayoade is brilliant at that. Dev Patel is brilliant at that. And it tends to fall onto certain characters who can do that. They don't always talk to the camera. It's very specific characters and very specific environments that kind of are telling you that story. And they are all both the characters and the narrators. It's only really the character of Roald Dahl as Ralph Fiennes that is just directly talking to the camera all the time. And he appears as characters within other ones as well.
Okay, lovely. Pete, what's your favourite Roald Dahl book? Because I think Roald Dahl, for listeners who aren't really aware of Roald Dahl, has a real strong legacy within all of our respective childhoods. I would say I still remember vividly being at Brandhill Primary School in Birmingham in the early 90s, all of us around the room reading Fantastic Mr. Fox, I think, and Danny the Champion of the World. I remember reading that. But, and I know, Sam, your favourite story is George's Marvelous Medicine.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Kick ass.
But it's things as well of like I remember like we would watch on TV like Rick Mayall reading Roald Dahl. Like I remember like Rick Mayall distinctly him reading George's Marvelous Medicine. And that kind of is embedded in my mind. I was really happy the day when I found out that my 6-year-old Toby, like they're reading Fantastic Mr. Fox in his class, and I was like that was my favourite Roald Dahl. And like it's brilliant that he's now kind of having that story kind of read in class. So it's still there.
Yeah, I gotta say, I never really liked any of them. Like,
You're the worst.
I found them all really, even as a kid, and this probably says quite a lot.
All
to
of
do
us have
with
got
me.
a smirk about what are you going to say.
No, come on. So what did you find about them, Pete? Sorry,
Well,
little
I found
childhood
them-
Pete.
Little childhood Pete.
Your toes are poking out of your socks.
Yeah, but I think I found them really childish. Like I know that's really like obviously, but like I even as a kid when I was subjected to them, I just kind of
jeez.
I just kind of found them a bit like on the nose. Like for example, all of his female characters who are baddies are all very much of a sort, and like it's all very like Mrs. Trunchbull is like the archetype, right? Like she's the big fat silly woman, right? Like and that's a lot of
But
her
she's also the
female villains.
opposite of the hero teacher.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I totally agree. But
Yeah.
they all he deals a lot in stereotype, and like I just found them really boring because of that. But yeah, so as a kid, I just kind of didn't really like them. I was more interested in, I don't know.
Go on.
I don't know, like
Sun Tzu.
Can't.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say.
yeah.
Jeez.
I don't know. Like, I guess I wasn't really reading that. I was more interested in things like probably equally insensitive books, like Willard Price's like Africa Adventure and like Safari Adventure and stuff like that. I was more interested in like the adventure
the
book.
modern Renaissance child.
Yeah,
aren't you?
I know, but yeah,
You just had a boarding school upbringing in a in like council estate.
yeah, basically.
Budget.
I mean, it's
Um,
extraordinary, yeah. Because for listeners, we are all the same age.
We are,
Yes.
yes. Okay, fine. So I yes, but when you
The
grow up
man
in
who asked for
Tunbridge Wells,
socks for Christmas.
you grow up in something like 20, 30 years earlier. But I think I found those books a bit silly and puerile and a bit stereotypical, like a lot of stereotypical characters. And I think at the time I just found them a bit boring. So if I was more when I was interested in like silly stuff or things that were a bit more whimsical, I was more into what were they called? Happy Bones, the family,
The Funny Bones.
Yeah.
the Funny Bones,
Jane and Alan Alberg, I think, wrote those.
something like that. Like I was more into
In a dark, dark town on a dark, dark street.
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I was much more into that. I was kind of more interested in things like Dr. Seuss.
That's much younger than Roald Dahl, though.
Yeah, absolutely. But I found
I mean, same with the Funny Bones, yeah.
I found the whimsy in those things more interesting, so that when I was about the right age for Roald Dahl, I was probably like
Over it.
I was just over it. I was just like, whatever.
Oh, mother. These books are far too whimsical for me.
Now bring me my caviar and hors d'oeuvres.
Sam, Dan, I think a bit like when Sam saw Venom on a plane that was meant to be for everyone. Is there a way in which we could take a classic Roald Dahl story and make it for Pete? Is there a way in which we could do that? Dial up the whimsy and
definitely.
dial
You could-
down
you
the
could turn-
childishness?
You could turn Charlie and the Chocolate Factory into a health and safety procedural nightmare.
Yeah.
where Willy Wonka's brewing beer.
Yeah, no, it's where Willy
Isn't that a
Wonka.
Family Guy episode?
It's where
Yeah.
it's where Willy Wonka is explaining his lean manufacturing process.
how he's hired a listed of crew of illegal immigrants to work on his chocolate
That's
factory.
Then, and yeah, when he tries to break the unions.
Oh dear.
Do you like Wes Anderson, Pete?
I'll be honest. I don't know who Wes Anderson is. Is he the guy who did? Was he the guy who did Alien?
No, that was.
I love the fact that we've talked just at length about who Wes Anderson is and the things that he's done. And Pete's
No, I'm
response to
sorry.
that
I'm
is,
just thinking about the
so
ones that I saw.
what did he do?
He's thinking of something Anderson, the horror
Oh,
director.
Paul W.S. Anderson.
Paul W.S. Anderson.
Is he?
Yeah,
Are
that's who
they?
you're
They're not
thinking.
the same person.
No, they're not. Neither's Jerry Anderson.
But they're so close. W and S. It's
There is
almost.
Pamela.
It's there. It's right there.
Yeah.
The works of if you want whimsy.
I'm just picturing all the Andersons just in slow motion running across a beach.
Three down, three nice podcast centric themed gifts, and all we're left now with Pete. Just to round it off, to make it 4 out of 4. Pete, what did you ask for?
I'm glad you asked, Dan. I asked for socks.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Now, look. Here's the reason why. Because, first of all, who doesn't need socks? Yeah.
True.
And
You've
second
got
of
us
all,
there.
Yep. Second of all, this year for me, when I sort of, around this sort of period of time, I'm starting to think about looking back on the year, about my achievements, and I'm just reminded of my great sock swizz of going on holiday and leaving rubbish socks in different parts of the world.
Not just socks, underwear as well.
Yeah.
And underwear as well.
I don't think anyone objected to the socks, really. It was the underwear that was the headline act.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But, I needed some more socks, and I thought, you know what? That I had a good old little laugh at that, and then I thought, do you know what? I actually do need some more socks. So this has come from SC. It's very nicely wrapped, beautifully wrapped.
That looks like a very expensive single pair of socks, theoretically.
It does look like a very expensive single pair of socks.
It was either or, wasn't it? Really, it was either going to be a bulk buy where you'd have like all of your socks the rest of your life bought for you.
Yeah.
Or it was going to be a
exactly.
very expensive pair of socks.
Very pricey pair of socks. Folks, we've done it. We've hit height. This is absolutely... Oh, my goodness. Okay. There's 2 pairs of socks in here.
Wow.
Now,
A tenner a pair?
a tenner a pair. I can believe it. Now, the first is a pair of... From Silly Socks. Is a pair of brogue socks. So they look
That's
like,
classy. Yeah, I like those.
These are classy socks. So brogues are like nice leather shoes, basically, with some. And in fact, not only are they brogues, they're also brogues and then socks on top of the brogues. So you get a pair of socks pretending to be a pair of socks, which I think is quite good. Actually, I think
That's very good.
That's quite bold. I like that a lot. That's wonderful. And they're all the way from Norwich.
Shout out.
But shout out. But the pièce de résistance of the socks has got to be these one of a kind. Surely one of a kind. I wish this was an ad. Staying in podcast
No.
socks.
Oh
Yes,
my god.
that uses the key art from our podcast on either side. Oh, jeez. Either side of the pair of socks, and now I can carry my pals and myself.
And they're labelled left and right.
And they're labelled left and right.
So you know that me and Dan are always right.
Yeah. Does it refer to the political compass of us?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. That's right. And yeah, so basically, they are absolutely incredible. I actually have a very important business meeting tomorrow, and I think I'm just going to wear them because
And nothing
there's
else.
nothing quite says I'm holding all the power in the relationship like a picture of yourself on your socks.
Are you going to do? Are you just going to put like one foot on the desk, like
Yeah, just like-
squat?
Take a look at Lefty.
Yeah, but
Have a
who
think
are you
about
going to
what
show?
Lefty's talking about.
That's the thing.
I'm gonna show.
Are you going to show yourself?
Yeah, I'm gonna show a picture of myself. I'm gonna be like, I'm so confident that I'm going to show a picture of myself to you, and that's just just a real power move. These are incredible. These are absolutely incredible, and I will treasure them forever. These will definitely not be left in a Bavarian hotel. These will be treasured forever.
No.
They're incredible.
If you had to leave them though, P, what is a place you'd leave them that's befitting of the sock?
Well, it would be a hotel, but the country is important.
Where do we need more listenership, Pete?
Everywhere.
Where are we trying to break into next?
I would love to be big in Japan. That's what I would love to be big in Japan. I have like a huge audience in Japan. That'd be amazing. Yeah, these would be left in a beautiful Japanese capsule hotel because they've been worn through with love, through overuse and overwearing. These are absolutely top drawer, well, bottom drawer, but you know what I mean. Incredible.
Do you put your socks in the bottom drawer?
Incredible socks. I keep them in the bottom drawer, mate.
I'm a top drawer boy.
Yeah, Pete just steps into his drawer and just shakes his feet around.
Yeah. Done. Yeah, they're incredible. Thank you ever so much, SC. I'm a huge fan of these.
Okay, can I just do a little roll call of your Christmas tradition? So, Pete, the Baileys will be polished off.
Mm-hmm.
Sam, I presume you're going to be reading A Christmas Carol as you do every year.
Every year.
Wonderful. Now, Dan, you've created the Advent calendar for your wife.
I have indeed.
Wonderful. Excellent.
The tree's up. I've heard some Christmas-themed songs. Alex has put the music I allow in the house, the Christmas music I allow in the house.
As long as it's not too whimsical.
Yeah.
I mean, it's basically spoilers. Unless
It's an audio book of.
Unless it's got
Ding dong merrily on high. In heaven, the bells are ringing.
The history of Christmas music.
Ding dong verily the sky. Just someone reading Christmas carols. Good King Wenceslas last looked out on the feast of Stephen.
So Pete, what is the music you allow?
I allow 19 up to like, I don't know, maybe 1970s like swing Christmas stuff, like Sinatra,
cool.
Yeah, electro swing.
Yeah.
What about the Vince Guaraldi trio?
That'll be. I'm cool with that. That can go straight in.
Can I introduce a genre to you, Pete, that I've discovered that I really love? Christmas funk.
Christmas funk.
Christmas funk.
That's going to be Pete's socks on New Year's Day, isn't it?
Because they're not coming off, Sam. Because they'll be stitched into the long johns.
Yep. What on earth is it? Is it just what I think it is? It's Christmas plus funk.
Yeah. So there's like whole albums on there where they've taken like Christmas carols and they presented like a funky version of them. It's great. Honestly, it's so cool.
Yeah.
And that and Christmas electro swing are like my kind of genres of choice around this time of year. Really.
As someone who finds no joy in Roald Dahl, I'll give that a go and I'll let you know how we get on.
Wow. Okay. Blimey. Okay, well, listener, if you are still
Yo ho ho.
Thanks for listening.
Yes.
We're gonna be back January 1st where we're talking about all things New Year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We'll probably make the same joke as we always do. Like we'll say, "It's New Year. How are we all?" But we'll actually be recording it in like.
Yeah, we're recording next week, aren't we?
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
We're pretty much recording next week or tomorrow or something like that. Yeah.
So look forward to that. What else? We'll talk about New Year's resolutions.
Yes,
New Year's
we
resolutions.
will. Definitely.
So if you've got a resolution that you're going to be sticking to, stayinginpod@gmail.com. Let us know about what that is. We're always interested. Come to the only social media page that we really do all that much with. We've got an Instagram channel. You can go see that. That's all nice. There's some nice pictures on there. We've also got lovely Spotify stuff where we have lots of lovely music on there, curated by Kris. And a whole bunch of other things as well. But you can find links to all of that stuff on stayinginpodcast.com. And yeah, we'll link out to all of that good stuff.
Well, look.
Okay.
Have a great Christmas.
Yeah. Have a good one.
Yeah.
And do enjoy it.
Yeah, have a Christmas.
Yeah. Here's a tenner. Go on, slip it in. There you go. Here's a tenner, mate. You go on. You be good. Be good.
level of whimsy may vary, but the important thing is that you just have a bit of time for yourself. Do something that you love with people that you love, or without, but wearing some nice socks and just enjoying the time of year in however you keep it.
Yep.
And hopefully SC got you everything you wanted.
Yeah.
Oh, SC out. Bodacious, baby.
Cowabunga.
Have you heard from SC?
The last message I saw was Paradise Killer is on sale, and if I want to really make good on this 20 quid, I need to get it
buy
now,
it soon.
pretty much. Thanks, SC.
Thanks, SC. Always looking for a bargain.
He's got all these people to look after across the globe, but he's making time for me to ensure I get the hottest deals. All right, then.